going to make some jewellery now. I think that's the easiest way to explain how to use all the different findings. Findings being the term for all the kind of hooks and clasps and wiry bits that you use to actually make the beads into some jewellery. So we're going to start with some earrings, and we're just going to do some very simple ones just so that you get the idea of how you do them and what bits you use for what. So we're going to start off with these ones. Literally all these are is just a pendant part and an ear wire. I've got one here, long ball wires, fish hooks, shepherd crooks, they're called various different things. There are lots of different designs, but this is one I'm going to use for now. So I'm going to use the round nose pliers that we talked about briefly at the beginning, and we're going to use these to just open this loop up. So all I'm going to do is actually put one of the prongs of the pliers in there, grip it, and then just pull it so it comes open. And I'll hang my little pendant part on there, and now we just need to close it up. So the same thing, you put the round nose pliers in there. This little ball does slide around and get in the way, so you need to pull that back out of the way and use the pliers to do it up. And there you go, that's the simplest earring you can do really. It takes like less than a minute. Obviously you'd want to do another one to make a pair. So that's him. Next, we're going to actually do a pendant part with some beads on, like these fishes here. So again, I've got a pendant part. This time I'm going to use an eye pin. Now we get eye pins and head pins. Eye pins are these ones with the little loops on the end for kind of attaching to things. So I want to open that loop up, and again we just stick the pliers in there, grip it, and just a little bit of a wrist action to open that up. Hang that on, and then again to close it up. So I grip that and I use the roundness of the pliers to close it back up in a loop. Next I'm just going to pop some beads on there. These are just some plastic miracle beads. They're quite nice, they catch the light, but obviously you can use anything. Okay, and now we need to make a loop at the top of here to actually attach that to the ear wire. So first of all, I'm going to bend that eye pin over at right angles to the top bead. Whoops. Now you can do this just with your fingers or with the pliers, whichever you prefer. And I'm going to cut off the excess. I'm just going to bend that a little bit closer actually, because you want it quite close to that bead. There we go, that's better. So the cutters, cut off the excess. You want to save yourself about 1 centimetre. When you cut this, the wires do fly around a little bit, so I tend to point it down towards my bead mat. I'm actually going to trim a little bit more off that one. And then the round nose pliers, I'm going to grip the very, very end of that wire, but I'm going to do it part way down the pliers. If I use the very end of the pliers, they're so narrow there that you'll get a loop that's too small to work with. So it's part way down the pliers, but the very end of the wire. And then, as I say, you then just bring it back over itself using the roundness of the pliers to create that loop. You get about halfway round, then you can't actually twist anymore, so you've got to take the pliers out and reposition them. And at this stage, before I close that loop up, I'm going to hang my ear wire on there. So again, grip the very end of the wire and bring that round so that it touches back on itself and makes it secure. So that's just sort of one step on really from the first one we did, just adding a few beads on there using an eye pin. Next, I'm going to do a pair like this, which is all beads, not you're going to cheat and use a pendant part this time. So we start the bottom bead, we need a head pin. Now the head pins, again, it's same length as the eye pins, it's just got the flat end on there, not the loop. So that's the one you use for your bottom bead, because you don't really want a loop coming out the bottom of your earring. So I'm going to pop one of these little stars on first. Again, we start off by bending it over at right angles to that top bead. And we do this because if we were to bend it, keep the wire straight and then bend the loop, you end up with a bit like a letter P shaped, whereas this way the loop should end up centrally to the head pin. So again, it's the round nose pliers, so you grip the very end of the wire about halfway down those pliers and just wrap it round over the top to get that loop coming. Before you close it, I'm going to attach an eye pin because that's the next bit to add the bead on. So grip the end, make sure it's touching. Now it's important these touch back to themselves, so then they're not going to come undone. I think to begin with is don't get too hung up on trying to get an exact circle, just as long as it's touching back on itself and it's secure. So that's the first one to go on the bottom. So now we'll do another one, and again bend it over, cut off the excess and make the loop. Now you can see here I'm using a slightly different colour of findings. They come in various finishes, gold, silver, black, antique gold, all sorts of things. So it's just choosing the colour that you want to work with. So again, second eye pin, join that on, close that up, and you can see how it's extending. We'll put one more on, bend it over, cut it off, and make that last loop. This time, before I close it up, I'm going to hang an ear wire off it and then finish it off. And there you go, another fairly simple earring. I mean, I've put 3 on there. Obviously you can continue that as many beads as you want. I mean, obviously we could have put all 3 of those on one pin, but I think it's the movement in an earring which is what makes it attractive and catches the light. So I like them as separate links. You can build up, I mean, this one here is the same thing, but I've just done 2 runs of beads on there, so you can keep building these up, you know, as many beads on there as you like, using the head pins and eye pins. Just a couple of other findings to go with the earrings that I'll mention while we're doing earrings. As I say, I've used the long ball wires. There's different ones here. There's kidney wires, which actually clip up at the back so they can't come off. If you haven't got pierced ears, there's a whole range of different clips and screws. They've just got a little loop on there, so you hang the beads off there in the same way as we've just done. Things like the little flat studs, you can actually glue things on the front of those if you don't want dangly earrings. So that's shown you the basic techniques of making the earrings, so it's up to you now to experiment and come up with your own designs.